In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the VWAP or volume weighted average price indicator and how you can use it to become a better trader. All that and more coming up. All right, so the volume weighted average price indicator or VWAP indicator is a great tool that's going to help you become a better trader, at least when it comes to determining whether or not a stock is trending in either direction. And it can also help you determine solid supports and resistances as well by using the average price of that stock. But before I get into this in even further detail, I want to welcome you to my channel. Hi, my name is Brad, and this is Own the Chaos. The stock market and the world of finance is a crazy and chaotic place, and I've made it my mission to help you own it. So if you want to see more content such as this, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you get notified every time I put a video up. And if this is the first time you're ever learning about VWAP, give me a good old thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate it. Okay, so on to today's topic about VWAP and what it is. So again, volume weighted average price, and this is used pretty heavily with institutional investors. It's going to help you determine pretty solid support and resistance levels and whether or not a stock is trending in either direction. And I'm going to show you that by sharing my screen with you and going over a few examples of just how VWAP works. And if you are a ThinkOrSwim user, I'm also going to show you how to pull this up and how to actually apply it to your chart. Okay, so I'm pulling you over here to ThinkOrSwim, and the first example that I'm going to show you is Tesla. Now, Tesla has started to develop what I can tell with my own eye and looking at the price action here that this actually looks like it is a pretty good resistance, or pretty good resistance now, which was a support at one time, right about here around 486.58 or 486.50 if you want to call it that. So I'm going to do that by drawing a line here just to kind of give you a frame of reference by just looking at the price action, how I can tell that this is a nice little area of resistance now, as it once was a decent area of support. Now, looking at this right now, you can see that I have the 5-minute chart pulled up on ThinkOrSwim, and now I'm looking to apply the VWAP indicator. So I'm going to right click on my mouse here. I'm going to go down to studies. And one thing that I will suggest you not do, don't go to quick study or add study, because this is just going to make you try to search this in a drop down menu that is kind of cumbersome. You're just going to have to sit here and search through all that. It just makes it really difficult to do. What you want to do is just go to edit studies and type in the indicator you want to use. So I'm going to do VWAP, and then there it is right there for me. So I'm going to click on add selected, and then boom, there we are. Okay. Now, again, pay attention to that red line that I've put here before you in the beginning of this video. And as I determined that this was once a support and now a resistance. So looking at the VWAP indicator, what you really want to pay attention to is this middle purple line here on ThinkOrSwim. Now, what ThinkOrSwim does for this VWAP indicator is that it puts this upper line here for you and this lower line as well. Now, what this is the 75th percentile as it relates to the average price, and this is the 25th percentile as it relates to the average price. This line in the middle is the most important line that you're going to want to focus on, which is the actual VWAP indicator. And so looking at this, you can kind of see how this is determined at solid support and resistance lines as well. You can see how many times that Tesla has bounced off of this resistance and can continue to get rejected. Now, when you have big institutional investors come in here and they have big clients that have a lot of money that they trade with, and they say, hey, listen, I'm looking to get rid of some shares of Tesla, and these institutional investors will say, or these institutions will say, okay, that's fine, we'll trade at the VWAP price. And the VWAP price here is going to be 485.79. That's what they're going to determine. That's what they're going to see. And so they're going to start selling there. So that's why you see this rejecting. You see a bunch of buying up, especially from this lower 25th percentile. And we'll get into that in a second about how you can apply this. But when it's coming up to this middle VWAP line, you can see that, okay, the institutional investor is saying, well, you know what? It's time to sell. It's time to get out. I'm not done selling all my shares yet. So then it'll come back down. It'll get rejected. And then it'll come back up again and said, nope, I still have shares left to sell. And then it'll come back down even more until finally all of those shares have been sold, and then it can finally breathe a little bit and it'll continue to go back up. And then once it's above this VWAP line, it can indicate that this will end up moving even further up above the VWAP, and it will tell you that there is a bullish move on the way. Now, again, if I didn't make myself clear before, if you're looking at this VWAP line and the the current price of the stock is actually below the average price, that would indicate that there's a bearish move that is going on with this particular stock, which in most cases it does. If you can see it here down, right as it dips below the VWAP line, it just continues to come down and actually starts to fall along that 25th percentile, which we'll talk about in just a second. But then as it continues to pop up here, and as long as it remains below that VWAP line, it's going to remain bearish until it finally moves above it. Now, if we go back to this on the previous day, you can see how once it moved above that VWAP line and actually started riding along that 75th percentile, that in fact was going bullish. And that's all it did all day. As long as it remained above this VWAP line, it remained bullish and it was green on the day. No signs of a bearish move at all on Tesla. Now, again, to get to these upper and lower lines here, so this upper line is the 75th percentile. So if you see this trading above the 75th percentile, lots of times this can tell you that the momentum is actually going to continue, as it does here. So once it moved above this percentile, you can see how it really just started to skyrocket above this 75th percentile as it relates to the VWAP. And then if you look here today, or as of this recording, you see that it starts to follow along this, and this actually does the opposite. So if you're following along or below the 25th percentile, there's usually a good indication that it's going to continue to move downward in a pretty quick fashion, if I do say so myself. It's also important to note here that if you see that this VWAP is declining, that there's a pretty good indication that the current price of the stock is also going to decline. So if you see this middle VWAP going in the downward direction, pretty good indication that the price of the stock is going to continue to go down. Likewise, if you come back over here to the previous day where it was doing quite well, the VWAP was also moving up and having a really good day. Now, what I would suggest you don't do is completely rely on VWAP exclusively to determine a trend, since it's only showing a historical average and not what's going to happen in the future. A good example of this is if, a president decides to assassinate an Iranian general, the market decides it wants to act. The VWAP's not really going to predict something like that. So make sure that you're not just using the VWAP as your end all be all, but actually just a guide to help you to determine, trending stocks, as well as the resistances and supports to determine your buying and sell points. Now, as you can see here, it follows along with it pretty darn well. Look at how it comes up here and touches the VWAP here and then gets actually rejected, acting as a resistance, and then tries it again, getting rejected again, acting again as that resistance. And just to give you another clear example, we're going to use AMD. Now, AMD is another stock that I like to trade a lot, and you can use VWAP on this one as well. So see how at the open, it just pops right up above the VWAP and really kind of rides along the 75th percentile here and stays above VWAP for quite some time until it finally dips below that and then indicates that it's going to continue to make a move further, which of course it did. So as long as it stays below this middle VWAP line, it's going to remain bullish until it finally goes above that resistance. Another good example of VWAP in action is if you go to the previous day on AMD, and you can see how it goes below VWAP here and comes up above and then finally starts to make its move up. Now, I would not suggest anybody just making this their buying point as soon as it hits or just above the middle VWAP. I would wait for confirmation. As you can see here, it just kind of popped up over that VWAP and then kind of settled down in here and then really kind of started to pick up momentum after the fact. So you can see how it was riding above that VWAP line and then finally started to gain some momentum. Obviously, you're going to have to take some other indicators into account here, and as well as understanding price action and all that good stuff. So again, I just want to hammer this home that this isn't the end all be all indicator, but it's going to help guide you in that direction. And to help you determine that the proof is actually in the pudding here, I'm using volume, and then I'm also using momentum here with my RSI and no sure thing indicator that to determine that this is definitely going to continue to make this move. It's already above the resistance, which we know it's already above resistance, which we know if a stock breaks resistance, and that there's a very good indication that this may continue to have a forward momentum. But also I'm looking at volume here as well. You can start to see that this has got really good volume, but also I'm paying attention to volume as well. I'm looking at this, I'm checking my boxes off. I see this is trading above VWAP. I see that volume starting to pick up here. I see that momentum's looking good. All signs are pointing to bullish. So I would take a long position on AMD, and as a matter of fact, I did on this particular day. made a pretty penny, was very happy with this trade. And all of this started because I was using the VWAP indicator. Okay, so here is the third example that I'm going to use. I'm going to use Baba or Alibaba stock. And this is another great example of how you could have used VWAP to your advantage. As it pops up over VWAP, you can see from about 221 all the way up to 223 that this would have made a nice bullish move, getting above that resistance and continuing there. But then also you could have traded this all day long using VWAP. You could have shorted this as it dipped below VWAP and then went long again after it touched that 25th percentile. And there's one thing that I would also like to note. Unlike your simple moving averages or even your momentum indicators, your RSI, all that stuff, RSI is this is all acting in past tense, and so then it can move. So just because you see a cross doesn't mean that that's necessarily, you know, the indicator, right? We probably would experience that if you're familiar with MACD or RSI. It changes right on the fly. So sometimes it can be a little bit misleading. But what VWAP does is that it weighs the average price. So the average price isn't going to be as crazy or all over the place. It's not going to constantly move on you. And what I'm saying by that is you can see how, you know, your momentum indicators, your RSI may change based off of your time frames. What doesn't change is VWAP. So because it's just taking the average price. So if I look at VWAP here and I look at 221.97, we'll call it 221.97 or 222 is the VWAP or resistance as we're looking at it right now. And that's on the 30-minute chart. If I go to the 5-minute chart, it's the same, 222. That's going to be your resistance no matter what time frame you're using this in. And we can go out to the 1-hour chart. Same thing, 222. It's not going to change because it's taking your average price into account. It's not going to change like look at this. Look at this momentum indicator. Look at the RSI. See how it changes? We're at the 1 hour right now and the 5 hour. So that is, or the 5 minute rather. So, and look at the crazy difference in change because these are based off of volume and volume averages versus price. And when you're trading in the stock market, price action is everything. So you're really going to want to pay attention to this. And this is why I think the VWAP indicator is a very great indicator, especially when determining trends and supports and resistances. So what did you think? I hope that I made it clear, and I hope I brought some certain things to light that maybe you didn't know about. If this is not your first VWAP video, maybe I brought something unique that you hadn't seen before. Hopefully I did that for you. And again, if I did, I certainly would appreciate a thumbs up. But what I would also encourage you to do is checking out other folks' interpretations and perspectives on how they use VWAP, because maybe it might work for you even better. And so that's going to do it for me, guys. If you want to learn more how to day trade and how to be a part of a great community that can support you and help you throughout your journey, click the link below. I have a mentorship where I go live every morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then I'm with everyone throughout the entire day via a private chat. I share my trades. I share all of my wins, my losses, everything that you need to know about day trading is in that group. So if you want to go check it out, again, the link's down below. I certainly would appreciate you joining. You're going to love that community. And that's going to do it for me, guys. As always, I will see you all before the bell, and B. Smith is out. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. The stock market is a crazy and chaotic place, and I've made my mission to help you own it. So if you want to see more videos such as this and really crush it in the stock market and in investing, subscribe to this channel. You're not going to want to miss a thing.